Welcome, welcome, welcome. Thank you for joining. This is so exciting. Episode 1. And as I used to say as an airline pilot, I know you have your choice in content you could be consuming, and I appreciate you spending some time with me in this version. But what I noticed is that there's a lot of conversation around how to go up, how to recognize your gift, how to harness your talent, and then go up and like scale or go, widen and go luxury. And there's like these directional arrows, but none of them that I have noticed are placed at the summit. They're all on the path up. And I don't know where there is a place for people who have maybe quote unquote made it that go, oh, wait a minute, I thought there was going to be community here, or I thought this was a safe place to express my fullest creativity, or whatever. The continual go up, go up, go up just kind of became a little repetitive. And I know the word spirituality can be kind of maybe a little triggering. There's a lot of us who have deconstructed religion. Bottom line is I have not found a grounded, accessible approach to quote unquote spirituality. And where there are somewhat spiritual concepts, I've noticed that they can be just like filled with sort of these like tropes or common buzzwords that just I don't think they work anymore because they're so overused. This conversation is just not being had elsewhere. I see a lot of the same language around OMG, can't get over this tablescape from last weekend. But it's, and there's a reason for this. I completely understand, but there's not a whole lot of like, hey, I'm having a hard time finding my path in this industry that changes week to week, literally. So, I mean, where does somebody go if all of a sudden they're like questioning their journey? You're not going to take that to a conversation in like the Over the Moon Facebook group or Instagram page. I don't know if anybody's on Facebook anymore, to be honest with you. So that's what we're doing here. I've got a couple of friends who objectively were like, they had a prime of being the industry Christ child. And then something just very subtle or small changed, and it just, boom, evaporated. And that makes me uncomfortable because it makes me wonder, what are we doing here? What are we doing here as a whole or as a collective if we bolster these creatives up and we give this illusion of, you can have all this beautiful tent wedding in Costa Rica that was a $9 million tent build, and then post about it on social media for 3 years. There's this idea that there's a better place just around the corner, just after all this hard work. And I think a lot of people have gotten to that summit and gone, oh, there's a disconnect here. There isn't. I don't feel happier. I don't feel better. I did a bunch of free work to get here, and all of a sudden there's a new person doing all that free work, and I'm kind of fizzing out. What I mean by that is like your phone's ringing less, or you're getting fewer inquiries. And if that conversation is not being had, it's going to be had here, because we can't focus entirely on the way up or the roadmap to luxury. We can't do that and then not actively engage in very intentional conversation with the people that are there and that are experiencing every part of those experiences. So not just like, look how insane this NBA player's wedding was. I mean, the reality of this is that you left home on Tuesday for a Saturday wedding ceremony. Like, you're home the following Tuesday. The hotel with all of your gear, getting from there to, like, what's the reality of this if we're not worried about what's the planner who hears this going to think? you need to hear this. If you're a planner and you are not taking time to understand all parts of your creative partner's experiences, you are missing out on a major opportunity to know a part of this industry that's not just your own. I'm not talking about only the creatives who have a big name already and you're going to ride that name into your next event. I'm talking about, what is it like to be in this person's soul during their creative process? And if that's not something that you're curious about, I really think it's a missed opportunity. So that's the what. And there's a big buzzword of authenticity. I kind of want to avoid that because I don't even know what that means, to be honest with you. I try to aim for authenticity, whatever my idea of genuine interactions is, but like, how authentic are we really able to be without having somebody clip it and send it out, or screenshot and be like, can you believe what this person is, they're out of line talking about like they're a human being. What? I faced a little bit of that with my natural existence. Is I love being goofy, and that's kind of how I just exist. But when I do that, there is I notice like people are really here to see the pretty, and I'm ready to shift that tide a little bit. Whatever that means to me, that's just my intention. I'm stating out loud. I hope you'll join me. You don't have to be in a place where you're ready to like have a big Jerry Maguire moment. You don't have to be ready to write the career-changing manifesto and walk, like storm out of the office. But I am, for sure. Maybe not the manifesto, but I woke up one day and I realized I am keeping in line so that I keep the apple cart upright. And I realized it's not even my apple cart. If I am worried about offending or provoking people who want only a certain version of me, then I'm worried about offending or provoking somebody who is not here for me. That is a very important part of why I want to start this angle of, or this corner of the industry. And I'm okay with it maybe just being, this might be me and me for a little while. But I have there's a lot of years of having thrown so much work and so many long late nights while raising a young family and being a husband to my wife and being a friend to my friends. And then kind of realizing, man, it can kind of, that you can trend out pretty quickly. If somebody, your reputation takes a black eye, or which mine for sure has, or if there are things that can, outside of how good of a creator you are. And I really I want to talk about that. And I know that my experience is not really very isolated. I know it's more common than not, to be honest with you. So thank you is what I'm trying to say. Thank you. And this is a place where you can bring all of you, not just the parts that that are cool sounding, not just the parts that are going to be good to clip and repost on your stories, but really all of you. And we're missing that. Well, we were till now. Maybe zoomed in a little bit. I think this conversation is necessary because what happens is we start off doing maybe a little bit more creative risk taking, and then that gets eyes and that gets people noticing, oh, like their creative spark is unique and it's got a certain feeling to it. And I can feel that grit and that soul and the blood and guts of it. Ooh, like I like to say, you might know this, I like to say they went black and white when 95% of people would just keep it color and work with what they've got. Oh, they just went black and white. That's, for me, I love that move. But we do those things, and then all of a sudden we start going, ooh, these new clients, and they're all kind of expecting a look. And so we try to go back and look at, ooh, okay, I have to replicate this look. So every time there's a ceremony and the client's walking, or they're processing from the back of the ceremony area to the altar, I have a drone, and every client's going to want a drone now. So I have to put the drone up, or I always shoot this way. So I got to do that the same way. And all of a sudden we start losing that, ability to call an audible, or to recognize that those moments, each individual moment will pull our eye where our eye needs to go. It becomes a little more challenging to listen for that pull when we are busy replicating an experience from yesterday. So that is why this conversation needs to be had. And my goal is I've already had a couple of really cool conversations with some creatives who I guarantee you know. So those are coming up. And if you are somebody who's listening to this and you're like, man, I resonate with that, I want to talk to them, you are, of course, invited. As long as you have more than 10,000 Instagram followers, you are welcome here. So to me, when I had this like recoil moment, I think this was during COVID. There was this group was made up of like, sort of like the Engage crowd. It was some really highly talented people that were obviously at home. And so there was this Facebook group that started, and it was kind of like a how to do luxury. And I'm not going to say the name of it, but it was like, here are these planners, these 3 planners who are going to it's a tell-all. We're going to explain all we know, and then you're going to pay us monthly, and then we're going to have meetups and do it. It was probably a really well thought out idea. We definitely need more community for sure. But the interesting thing that I've noticed is when we commoditize the not commoditizable, it falls flat. To me, luxury is a byproduct of a risk being taken and that being recognized, not a template that was followed because somebody else, in the quote unquote luxury price point, sold them this template, so it's been replicated trying to be luxury, because then by definition it just misses. So this Facebook group, they were talking about like every buzzword started happening, and there was like, kind of just made me go, ugh, like gross. If you tell somebody who's in a certain part of their career, if you tell them all these, you just drop all these ideas on them. And let's say they're having they're like really want out of that middle market, kind of where you can get lost. They're hurting. They're going to try these things, but you're asking somebody to manifest when that's they're not in a place where they can do that. We're not giving them the tools to be in a place where they can be consciously creating, because they think they're being told that, to manifest, you're going to state these affirmations in the mirror in the morning 15 times in a row. And like, it was just, people are getting poor direction, and you're better off being told nothing than being given garbage spiritual advice about, spiritual in terms of like flow, alignment, manifesting, honor that part of you, that whatever. It's really easy to read a couple. I know this specifically from personal experience, but it's really easy to read a couple books and be like, I've got it. I've got that. Oh, hang on. I got to make sure this call doesn't ruin my video. Okay. So that is the what, and that's the how. This is a place to explore these ideas, and then to hold each other accountable, because we are in this community together. And as much as I'd like to be a lone wolf and just stick to my corner of the, Midwest market, it's just not working for me anymore. And what else is not working is just going to that very commonly referred to wedding professional organization, just going to their monthly meetups and kibitzing there. That does not work for me, because at least my market is so insular. Going to those dinners once a month just isn't, it's not my jam. So I'd rather be here and connect deeply with you than, I don't mean to sound negative, but I'm much better at communicating and interacting deeply rather than the let's do coffee, because I feel like we're just kind of wasting our time. I want to know all of somebody, and I want to grow from that place rather than, hey, how you doing? How's your 2025 looking? Okay, great. On to the next person. It just doesn't interest me anymore. I've been filmmaking for 15 years. Maybe in the first couple of years, sure, but that's not for me. So who's this dude talking to you? And so I started wedding filmmaking. I started filmmaking about 15 years ago. I was in just making movies and doing kind of gig to gig. And I really was in a place where I needed to change my life. I needed to have a more structured career. I needed to be making consistent money and to know when I'm getting paid, and not just going from job to job. And, while I'm doing one job, I'm thinking about the next. So I've been a pilot my whole life. I went to become a flight instructor. I went to the airlines for a short amount of time. After that, I realized I didn't like living out of a hotel room. So I became a police officer. I did that for a while, all while being a wedding filmmaker and supporting my family that way. And it was a great weekend thing. It was awesome. But I noticed in 2016 that I wasn't really doing a service to my teammates at the police, and I wasn't doing a service to my own career as a wedding filmmaker by being a weekend warrior. And I didn't want to be one foot in each. And especially in the law enforcement side, it can be literally unsafe. If your mind's not in the game, you can really jeopardize your whole team. So, at the same time, in Chicago, at least, there wasn't really a person doing the high end stuff that came through town. There were a few times where Ray Roman would come into town and be hired to work, and Ray would be working a mile from where I was. And I just said I've got to be doing these, because I work too hard and I'm too talented to be in that middle market, especially in Chicago. The middle market for videography is tops out at $5K. People hear a number 6,000 or 7,000 and they go, oh, that's a lot of money. And you and I both know it's just not, as far as a skilled professional creative who is an intuitive and an empath and is able to translate the feeling of a wedding weekend into a visual or an auditory experience. $7,000 once you pay taxes on that and all of your costs involved, that's just not that much money. So that's the reality of how I got started. And then through a couple of experiences of mine, I realized pretty quickly that I wasn't doing wedding videography, but I was creating these visual meditations. And to some, that might sound very silly, but to the clients and to me, there's this moving meditative aspect to what I'm creating, using my own instrumentals, using songs and the visuals from the wedding. And that set me apart, and I think it still does. But I noticed that that was what I was charging for. I'm not doing wedding videography. I am creating visual meditations. And that switch flip for me was a real game changer. Once I realized that, then wedding filmmaking became sort of like more of a practice rather than like a gig. It became in a way, like a sacred experience where the whole process was sacred, from like the inquiry to moving forward to like the phone calls to the wedding day of, and then the editing. All of it became like a kind of like yoga in a way. It was every movement, every interaction was all sacred. And when I viewed it that way, I was able to see that every moment I was in was where I needed to be. Every camera angle that that attracted my eye was where I needed to be standing. And then I would be motivated to move to some other place. And then that was where I needed to be then. So I noticed that the more I fell into allowing it to be that meditative experience, the more the craft itself revealed to me what I was doing and the importance of what I was doing. From there, if you can see you and you can recognize your own magic, it makes it so you don't have to go to the marketplace for them to validate what you're charging. It's really easy to say, well, I'm going to let the market dictate what I should charge. And everybody's charging $3,200 for wedding videography. So I'm going to throw my hat in there and at that number. And what I realized is, no, I'm sure you've read the book Profit First or heard of it. I'm going to say, here's what I need to take away. And then I'm going to reverse engineer the numbers that I need to charge from that point. And I'm not afraid to say, this is my number, and have somebody be like, whoa, that's so much higher than everybody else. Because I know that I'm doing a very specific thing that is unique to only me, in the sense that it's a spiritual endeavor, not just a commodity. I'm confident in going and saying, yeah, I'm more expensive because I'm the only person that can do this. Not that other people don't have great videography, but I am the only one that has this lens, this soul, that's going to interpret what I'm seeing on this wedding weekend and then translate that to a visual experience, that visual meditation that's going to take you there inside your heart for as long as you live. That's who I am. That's what I'm doing here. And I wouldn't say that I'm not somebody who can sit here and give you all sorts of like wedding industry advice. I'm probably not a very good person to do that from a how to make a great successful wedding business, because there are parts of my decision-making process that if somebody else replicated that, they'd be doing it for, like I was talking about before, they'd just be doing it for the sake of, well, he said to, so I should do the same. Definitely not. My kids' colleges are paid for. I'm not afraid to say what I think, and I'm not afraid to have somebody or a part of the community be like, not like me. I don't care. Because again, I know that what I'm doing is only possible through my specific lens, so to speak. So that's the who. So often we get, there's a conversation about, when we're talking about pricing, there's a conversation about negotiating. And to me, negotiating's never made sense to me. If I say to you, welcome to my lemonade stand, every cup that you see is 50 cents, period. If you are somebody who is like, well, I just passed a 7-Eleven and they have it for 32 cents. So what can you do? I'm just going to look at you and be like, that's great. It's great for the 7-Eleven. Here's the way that you put your car in reverse. You do this, and then you back up and you go back to the 7-Eleven. And if that's what you want to get, definitely get that lemonade. I've always been somebody that knows the value of what I am offering. But I've also been somebody who I want my experience with the client to be consistent from the very first touch point. Now, that's not to say I'm the best like email communicator or the best. I'm not defined by being a consistent human being. I am very much a creative in the sense that like I'm just not a fully adept business person. It is what it is. My strengths are elsewhere for sure. When it comes to interacting as a human with the client, I don't want their experience of being told, hey, this lemonade is 50 cents. I don't want them to think, yeah, he says 50 cents, but I think it could be 42. Let's try, talk. Like, no, when I mean what I say and I say what I mean, 50 cents is 50 cents, period. And I think that approach has helped me start off on the foot of implied trust with my clients. And it's not some arbitrary figure. It's years of experience. It's the expertise I bring. It's the assurance that when I show up, I'm delivering my very best. And I know my worth. I'm signaling my confidence in who I am as a person and a creative when I say this is what it is. I've been in the business long enough to know what like one centerpiece costs, or an ice sculpture. I've seen line items. I've seen what these things are. And it's just astounding to me that we go to the human creative that has children whose mouths need to be fed. We go to the human being like, yeah, they just want to spend less. Well, yeah, I got it. I want the groceries to cost less too. But at some point we need to bridge that divide. Like a client is looking to maximize their experience. They're looking to maximize their value. And a creative is looking to maximize their life experience. They're looking to maybe put aside for retirement or like literally keep the roof over their head. So I guess in some sense, we're both trying to maximize life on Earth and make it as enjoyable as possible with the least amount of suffering. I don't know. At least that's me. So we want the same thing. And I think it's important that we find a way to bridge that gap of like, well, the client sees a number and thinks you should charge less. I don't know what that is. Maybe it might be planners looking to, hey, listen, client, we can get these numbers down. I have relationships. So my value as a planner is in my ability to get these numbers down. A lot of times my clients they've had an MBA for 2 years. So they know that like, I'm just going to let me get in there and reduce costs, get all these numbers down. And pretty soon I can show my value as a part of this relationship who's getting married. Look at how valuable I am. I can do this deal and I can get numbers down. In a sense, I've seen some of that like kind of peacocking or whatever that is. And so I don't hold any resentment toward the idea of showing your partner your worth and through your actions. But I think we need more consistency, to use a word we've been talking about. We need more consistency in the planner, creative, and client triangle. There just seems to be like, it's the Wild West. And I just like, that's where the money is. It's pretty simple. That's where the money is. That mother of the bride is going to be the one to tell her friends at Bridge, this planner really wrangled those vendors, and I just haven't had an experience very recently where, aside from like 2 or 3, where I was like, yes, this planner was really valuable at helping me navigate a situation that I needed help with. So there's a little burnout here for sure. There's a little bit of like, oh man, that's not to say that I'm any less passionate about creating a community where we can unmask. That's me unmasking. That's like, I know, there's probably a significant risk with saying that out loud in a place where literally everybody can hear that. But the cost of hiding is just too great now. And because that cost is too great, I would rather have somebody know that this is where I am, this is who I am, and find those clients through my truth instead of hoping that they just pop out of nowhere. So I'm not afraid to say like this industry has a tendency to allow you to see some really nasty things that you don't want to be a part of. But if that's true, then the opposite has to be true also, by definition. The opposite being this industry has a long way to go. There's a lot of emotional, spiritual maturing that needs to take place. Because when we establish a collective that is built on performative and everything out front, you are your latest Instagram post, that is not sustainable at all. When we create this thing, it's built on a house of cards. So, but what is sustainable is the blood and guts. It's like the real stuff. What is sustainable is what's created from human creative artists. That passion and burning flame is what's going to continue us into the next iteration of this industry, specifically luxury. So that's what luxury is. It's a creative that their thing can't be replicated fully because there's only one of them. The experience of being around them or working alongside them, it's so irreplaceable that others try, but it can't be done. That's luxury. You can act like them. You can set your lighting up so it looks just like theirs, but at the end of the day, you are not them. So you have to find out what it means inside of you to be uniquely, completely you. And that's what we're doing here. And we're going to do it here together. And if you don't know, or if you're halfway through a journey figuring that out, or if you do know and you want to show the world, you've been through a transition and you're, caterpillar to butterfly, join me. You are welcome here. In any of those stages, you are welcome here.